Okay, so you want to crack the Google code. We're going to try. Ever wonder how Google actually finds what you're looking for out of, like, billions of web pages?
Yeah, it's pretty mind-boggling when you think about the sheer scale of it.
Totally. But the cool thing is, Google actually tells us a lot about how they do it. We're diving into their latest developer documentation, like the really in-depth stuff, to see how it all works.
And that journey begins with what they call Googlebot. Think of it as a team of digital explorers.
Right, so it's not just one little bot, but like a whole army of them, constantly out there, kind of like,
You could almost picture them like those little Roomba vacuums roaming around.
yes.
Yeah.
Except instead of picking up crumbs, they're looking for websites.
Exactly. And just like a Roomba uses sensors to navigate, Googlebot relies on links. Every single link on every web page is like a little signal, a little breadcrumb trail that tells Googlebot, hey, there's something interesting over here. Come check it out.
So it's not like Google has this massive list somewhere of every website on the internet, right? They're discovering new stuff all the time.
That's right. Most of the web is actually discovered through this constant exploration process. So, hypothetically, if you were to launch a brand new website today and didn't tell a soul, there's still a chance Googlebot would find it just by following links from other websites.
That's incredible. But okay, with billions of pages being crawled every single day, how does Google even begin to make sense of it all?
That's where indexing comes in. Imagine a massive, super efficient library, right? And in this library, every single book is a web page. That's essentially what Google is building with their index.
Okay, I can picture that. So Googlebot finds a new page, then what?
It's not just about, collecting pages, it's about understanding them. Google analyzes the content on that page, tries to figure out the main topic, the overall tone, like is it funny, is it serious, is it trying to sell you something?
Wow, it's like Googlebot is actually reading each page and taking notes.
In a way, yes. And just like a librarian carefully categorizes each book, Google files these pages away in its index based on all those little details it's picked up. Then they can be easily retrieved when someone searches for information related to those topics.
That makes a lot of sense. But, thinking about it, if every web page is like a book, there must be tons of duplicates or like near identical copies out there on the web. How does Google decide which one to actually show in the search results?
You've hit on a really crucial point. Google wants to showcase the best of the best, the most relevant, the most authoritative, and most trustworthy information. They even have a name for it, the canonical page.
Canonical page sounds kind of official. What does that even mean?
Okay, so imagine you have, say, a really amazing chocolate chip cookie recipe on your blog.
Sounds delicious already.
Right. And then let's say someone loves it so much that they share it on their own website. But they make a few little tweaks here and there. Now, Google needs to figure out which one is the original, the true source, like the OG recipe. That, my friend, is the canonical page.
Okay, so I'm guessing there are things you can do to make sure Google knows which version is yours, the original, right? Like,
Yep.
what if you're sharing your content across different platforms? How do you make sure Google knows where to look first?
Now you're getting into the strategic stuff, and that's a perfect place to pick up after a quick break.
So before the break, we were talking about canonical pages, right? Making sure Google knows which version of your content is the real deal, the original source, like that awesome chocolate chip cookie recipe. What can people actually do to make that super clear for Google?
Well, a lot of it comes down to links, specifically internal links. Those links on your website that point to other pages on your own site.
Okay, internal links. How do those help?
Think of them like signposts or guideposts for Google. Like,
Yeah.
let's say you write a new blog post all about baking substitutions,
Okay.
right? You could link back to your original cookie recipe post. Maybe say something like, hey, if you're out of brown sugar, check out this recipe for tips. And bam, you're not just giving your readers some extra helpful info, but you're also sending a clear signal to Google, like you're saying, hey, Google, these two pages are related, and that recipe post, that's the main source for this specific topic.
So it's not just about getting people to my website. It's about strategically guiding them through my content, showing Google what's connected.
Exactly. The way you structure your website, how you interconnect everything, it plays a huge role in how Google understands your pages and how it ranks them. But it's not just about links. Remember how we talked about Google actually analyzing the content itself?
Yeah, like Googlebot was taking notes.
Right. So imagine you're working on a research paper. You wouldn't just slap on some random title and call it a day, would you?
I mean, I've pulled a few all-nighters in college, but hopefully not.
Exactly. And the same goes for your web pages. The title tag, the title that shows up in the search results, it's like a headline that grabs Google's attention.
Okay.
It needs to be clear, concise, and it needs to accurately reflect what the page is about.
So instead of something like home, I'd want something more specific, like award-winning chocolate chip cookie recipe.
Now you're talking. And hey, while we're on the topic, don't forget about images.
Oh, right, because Google can't see images.
Right, Google can't actually see images the way we do. So using descriptive alt text for your images, it's kind of like providing subtitles for Googlebot.
Alt text, that's the hidden text that describes the image.
Exactly. It helps Google understand what's visually going on, and it makes sure your images show up in relevant image searches too. And all of this, the links, the titles, the content itself, it all paints a picture for Google, right? Helps them figure out not just what your website's about, but also how it stacks up against all the other websites out there on the same topic.
So it's like Google's constantly ranking, comparing, figuring out which website deserves that coveted top spot.
You got it. It's a never-ending competition. But here's the thing. It's not about trying to trick the system. The real goal for Google is connecting users with the information they need. And that's where this idea of user intent comes into play.
User intent, we hear that term a lot. What does that actually mean?
Okay, think of it this way. When someone types something into Google, they have a need, a question, something specific they're looking for. They're not just looking for any information. They want the right information.
Right.
They want it presented in a way that makes sense to them right then and there.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But how does Google figure that out? It's not like they can read minds, or can they?
Well, they're getting pretty good at it, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Google analyzes a ton of data, like what are people searching for? What websites are they clicking on? How long are they staying on those pages?
Wow.
All of that gives them insights into user behavior, helps them predict what people are going to find most useful for a given search.
So it's not enough to just stuff my website full of keywords anymore. I have to actually think about what my audience wants, what they're searching for.
100%. It's about aligning your content with that user intent, making it easy for both Google and your audience to find exactly what they need. Let's say someone searches for best running shoes.
Okay.
Google's going to look at a bunch of different factors to try and understand the intent behind that search.
Okay.
Are they looking for reviews, price comparisons? Maybe they want to find running stores near them.
So a search for best running shoes in, say, London is probably going to show up totally different results than best running shoes in New York City.
Exactly. And that's just one tiny piece of the puzzle. Google also takes into account your past searches, the device you're using, even your location history, all to deliver super personalized, laser-focused results.
This is all starting to click.
Yeah.
But it also kind of feels, I don't know, kind of intense.
It can feel like a lot, yeah. But this is what separates, good SEO from really, really great SEO.
Makes sense.
It's about understanding these nuances, aligning your content with what people actually want.
So we've gone from Googlebot crawling the web like a Roomba to now Google's playing matchmaker, connecting the right people with the right information.
That's a great way to put it. It's quite a journey. And honestly, we've only just scratched the surface. But before we go too deep, I want to hear from you, our listener. What's one thing that surprised you about how Google search actually works? Take a second, think about it. This is where it gets really interesting.
It really makes you appreciate all that behind the scenes work Google does, right? Like they're doing all this analysis just to figure out what we're really looking for.
And that's why it's so crucial to understand how it works. It's less about trying to game the system and more about working with it,
So all those SEO shortcuts and hacks we hear about, those aren't going to cut it in the long run.
Think of it this way. Google's top priority is making sure searchers are having a good experience.
Right.
They're constantly updating those algorithms to weed out spammy stuff, the sites that aren't really offering something valuable.
So it goes back to that user intent. It's not enough to just stuff your site with keywords. You've got to actually give people what they want.
Exactly. You've got to create content that's informative for your audience, but also something Google can easily understand.
Okay.
And it's not a one-time thing. User behavior changes, new tech comes along, Google adapts. So we've got to adapt too.
It's almost like learning a new language, right?
Yeah.
You got to get the basics down, the grammar and vocab, but then you have to be ready to change as the language changes.
Ooh, that's a perfect analogy. And just like learning a language opens up a whole new world, understanding how Google search works, well, it gives you that power to connect with your audience in a much deeper way.
We've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive.
We really have.
I mean, we started with Googlebot, diligently crawling around like our little Roomba friend.
Right.
And then we talked about how Google makes sense of it all,
Yeah.
organizing those billions of pages.
It's impressive, really.
And finally, we got into how Google decides which websites are the best, the most relevant, serving up those results based on what people actually need.
But like we said, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The question now is, what are you going to do with this knowledge?
Yeah. Think of it like we've given you the keys to the Google search kingdom. Now it's time to go explore, experiment a bit, see what you discover.
Keep asking questions, stay curious. And remember, the best way to rank well is to create awesome content that genuinely helps your target audience.
And if you're really ready to geek out on the technical side of things, we definitely recommend taking a look at the Google Search Central documentation. Don't worry, we'll link it up in the show notes.
Happy exploring.
That's a wrap on this deep dive into the incredible world of Google Search. Until next time, keep learning, keep optimizing. And hey, remember, when it comes to SEO, knowledge is power.